In this video, I'm going to show you how you can take scraps of wood and make this. Well, I don't know about you guys, but in my shop, I always have scrap pieces of wood that I don't like throwing away because, well, some of this stuff runs upwards of 22 bucks a square foot. So I hate throwing away exotic woods. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I take all of these small pieces that are useful for absolutely nothing else and make a nice little bowl out of it using epoxy resin and cutting these up in a mold. Let's take a look. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to be cutting up some of this wood and using it in my resin casting. So I put some mold release on it because I'm not sure. This is a bowl that I got from the dollar store, so it's a, it came with 2 of them. So it's a rather cheap bowl that I'm going to use. I'm going to take and place these bits and pieces of wood that I have no other use for inside here. But rather than use the whole space, to fill it with epoxy and wood and then have to dig it all out to make a bowl, I glued up some old plywood that I'm going to put in the center here. I'm going to round this off on the lathe in a bowl shape. And that way I can put it in the center so it takes up some of the space. So my next job is to round that off. I just glued it up, so I'm going to let it dry for about an hour. I got my epoxy resin, my mixing cup. I'm going to use mint. I think mint would go good with all these colors here. And again, these are just scrap pieces. A good way to get rid of these scrap pieces that are cut to weird shapes that you can't use for anything else. And it's expensive wood. I mean, these are yellow heart, 22 bucks a foot. So I try not to waste any wood if at all possible. If it ends up in the fireplace, it ends up in the fireplace. So this is all the stuff I'm starting with. And of course, a nice cold beverage is always good to have because, you're going to be playing around. So I just finished my pressure pot and I want to try it out. So this is a nice simple one. We had Inland Woodturners. Had a demonstration at the last club meeting where a gentleman did exactly that. He had a bowl and he put some wood in there and resin. I think he used stuff in the backyard. I'm just using scrap pieces of wood. But I thought that would be a perfect thing to try out in my new pressure pot. So that's what I'm going to do. So right now I'm going to take this out of the clamp and take this on over to the lathe and round it off to a bowl shape. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is drill out my hole for my worm screw. In this, take it out of the clamp here, or clamps I should say. I guess it doesn't matter which side I use. All right, so got my center. There you go. Perfect. And that's all you need right there. Just this piece can be as rough as you want, doesn't matter. This is going to be an insert piece. It's going to go down into the resin bowl, and you're good to go. So now this can actually come off here, which I will get off, and be set to go. See, all of that can go in once I make my first pour in there to level it out, and then put this in. Again, all this is for is just to fill space, and I'll take some tape and put it on over there to make sure that doesn't float up, so that stays inside the bowl. Or you could just put some weight on it too if you wanted to do that. Now the other thing too is to make sure that your bowl fits inside your pressure pot, which this one does, so everything is set to go. So next thing is just to start mixing up, add my color, get that ready to go, and then I'm set. Okay, so I have my first issue is the fact that I don't have as much of this as I thought I did. So I'm only gonna be able to make up 400 milliliters. So I like to pour in the thick stuff first and then pour in the thin stuff afterwards. It just makes it a little easier to ration it all out. Now hopefully, well, that's not gonna be good if they're not even, but they should be pretty even. All right, so I have almost 400 milliliters of stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up first. And all I'm using is a bamboo stick. And the nice thing about the clear cups is that you can see how the mix is going now. Basically, you just want to mix it until you don't see that, you know, clears out a little bit. It doesn't look so hazy, or at least the haze is even throughout the mix. So I'm told the slower you mix it, the less bubbles you introduce, which is probably true. But we'll see just how well the pressure pot works. All right, so I decided to go with a color called mint. It's kind of a cool looking green. And they have nice little, I bought a set that just has a bunch of different colors, and this stuff goes a long ways. Doesn't take too much to color it, and you're always better off starting with a smaller amount and then going back and adding to it if you need to. So we'll see how this works. And again, the nice thing about using the colors too is that you can see how well you're stirring everything up. All right, so we'll go ahead and put that in the pressure pot here. Okay, so I went to my local Michael's and got this clear cast resin here, so I can finish up the pour here. And because I used the mint before, but I'm going to use a complementary, or you know, similar color. So I'm going to use this one for the top coat because there's definitely going to be a division line there. So rather than trying to match that, that's not going to happen. I'll just go ahead and do this. So let's see which one is thicker. A is thicker. Now I just use simple rubbing alcohol to clean this stuff off. It seems to work pretty decent on it. So I don't know if that's exactly what they would recommend that you use or not. Okay, so here's my pot, and I actually already drained out the air, so you don't have to go through that, but it's been sitting overnight. Let's see how it all came out. Now it's my first pressure pot experience, so we'll see. Plus I had a double pour there, which probably wasn't the best. And everything seems to be intact. Didn't seem like anything moved, so that's a plus. Aha! Whoa! Man, so that actually looks pretty nice, actually. But I got to turn some. But I like the darker and then the lighter, so that really blended well together. I mean, I thought I'd have a definite line there between, because it was a time difference there. So no, I'm really happy. Yeah, there's a void right, a couple of voids right there. I'm really happy with this first. So anyway, that's the way it came out of the mold right there. That mold release does make it relatively smooth. I mean, man. Okay, so here's my finished bowl. All it is epoxy resin in that mold. You saw that I placed the wood in there, poured in the resin, put it in the pressure pot, and you know, let it sit overnight. Pull it out, and you start turning it. It pretty much is that easy. But I think you know, I randomly put these in here, and I think next time I might concentrate a little bit more, because the pieces that were on the inside, there are some thin pieces, and the outside there are some thin pieces, where they're two different pieces and they create two different patterns on both the inside and outside. Look kind of neat. I like the translucent blue. I started with a lighter and went to a darker. I like the way that looks on this bowl. You could make that a solid color if you wanted to. That wouldn't be a bad thing either. But overall, I think the only thing that I can offer you as far as a tip goes on this is that you definitely want a negative rake scraper. That works perfect on both the wood and the resin, cutting the resin. Anything other than that just sort of chips it out, busts it up, and it's really hard to get a smooth finish. The negative rake scraper was just a lifesaver. So for your carbide tip tool, they are available for most of them that I know of. Make sure you get one of those before starting on anything with a resin, and it's going to make life really, really easy. Other than that, fun project to do. It takes a day to pour the resin and let it set up overnight, and the next day you can turn the bowl. So it's not a time-consuming project, but it is fun to do, and I'd recommend you give it a try.